Hello, today is Friday, September 5th, and welcome to episode 497 of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you quickly up to speed 3 times a week on the national security and foreign policy debates shaking up America. I'm NSI Fellow Jessica Jones, and I'm joined today by Deputy Executive Director Martha Miller, Senior Fellow Morgan Vigna, and Visiting Fellow Algene Saudry. All right, guys. Today we're talking cyber. We're specifically talking about Salt Typhoon, the Chinese cyber espionage campaign that we've kind of touched lightly on the show about. It was a years-long campaign. It came to light last year. And earlier this week, a coordinated international advisory went out that was signed by the U.S., our Five Eye partners, and key allies, including Germany, Italy, and Japan. It was this long report that attributed Salt Typhoon to 3 Chinese firms linked to the Ministry of State Security. And it's the most kind of expansive public collaboration kind of naming a cyber attack to date. The Salt Typhoon targeted over 80 countries, millions of people, core telecom infrastructure like Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, kind of everyone, all of our cell phone plan carriers, basically. It hit the news as well because it targeted, political figures like now President Trump, J.D. Vance, the Harris campaign, and even breached the entire National Guard network. At the same time, we've also been reading headlines about kind of shrinking our own cyber defenses, potential budget cuts and buyouts for key cyber personnel. And meanwhile, Congress has also defunded the Wireless Innovation Fund that was meant to create an American alternative to Huawei, Chinese telecom firm, which is currently dominating 5G networks. Okay, so there's a lot going on here on our Tech Friday. So Martha, Morgan, I'm going to turn first to you. Kind of what's going on? Is this, report a big deal? Was Salt Typhoon that big of an attack?
Thanks, Jess. Happy to be here on Fun Friday and back on the pod with Algene. Algene, it's been a hot minute, so happy to be back with you. Okay, so Salt Typhoon. Clearly, Salt Typhoon was a much larger cyber attack than I think initially anticipated. Yes, impacting around 80 countries. Reportedly, every American has been affected by Salt Typhoon, just given the breadth of the telecom companies that have been infiltrated. And so I think that this is remarkable that the attack, obviously had been a years-long campaign by China to seize not just American, but our allies and partners' data. And of course, you put this in the context of the cuts to cyber defense and the efforts taken by the administration, in particular DOGE, to really make the U.S. government more effective and efficient and really streamline how we approach government programming, including cyber defense. Unfortunately, DOGE in particular had taken a very ham-fisted approach to this streamlining. And as a result, we've seen DOGE make mistakes. And unfortunately, when those mistakes are made, it doesn't actually immediately course correct, right? It takes time to fix those mistakes. And as a result, that has made the United States potentially weaker when it comes to cyber defenses and the programming or the contracts that have been cut. In particular, CISA, and I know Martha's probably going to touch on this too, but we're seeing major cuts to CISA. That has really drastically reduced the agency's ability to detect and to respond to cyber threats. And not to mention, of course, this very burdensome contract renewal process that's been put in place where we see a Secretary of Homeland Security, Christine Nome, have to personally approve every contract that exceeds $100,000. That has really put a crunch on the industry, right? In particular, who needs to get these contracts renewed in order to work with the government to protect us from threats like we've seen with Salt Typhoon in China. And finally, you put this in the context of the fact that the fiscal year ends in 3 weeks. And so as a result, we
DC does not forget.
Right. And so as a result, you have all of these contracts set to expire, and it's kind of a mess, right? Because of course there's this like massive line at the door. Everyone's trying to get through to get their contracts renewed. A lot of these are cyber defense contracts, and as a result of that, I think we're perhaps cutting our nose off to spite our face in many respects here.
Martha, can you touch on, so Morgan explained a little bit of what's going on the executive side, that, and, is Congress doing anything about this? Like, what are they doing about the U.S. Cyber defenses?
Yeah, well, so in 2015, let's go back like 10 years, there was a piece of legislation that became law, the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act. That actually becomes a pumpkin, I guess what we call a sunsetting, and September 30th. And what that legislation, what that law has provided is a legal framework and protects companies from liability for essentially informing the US government of cyber attacks. As anyone, you can imagine, if you're running a business and your company, is the focus of a cyber attack, there's a lot of risk involved, financial risk in making that public. And a lot of companies view this sunsetting, with some serious trepidation. The thing is the United States government, for our national security, we actually depend on the private sector telling the US government about these cyber attacks, because these state actors and their proxies are going after critical infrastructure that is not run by the US government. It is run by private, publicly traded companies that that are handling our financial services, our water supply, energy. So, I think we all have to be cognizant of the fact that the private sector actually is, number one, quite powerful on its own. However, it's also equally vulnerable, and especially vulnerable to cyber attacks. Imagine if we had a cyber attack that hit our energy and water and financial industries, either one by itself or all at the same time. Imagine the chaos that would create in the United States. We are no longer protected by the oceans as we were in World War II. So I guess I find it really curious that, that Congress has not taken action to reauthorize this legislation, number one. Number two, and especially in light of what we learned from Salt Typhoon and Typhoon, and the level of infiltration that created and vulnerability created within our telecom system, but writ large, it also just, it's like the emperor has no clothes. Like, it revealed how vulnerable we are as a nation to these attacks. So, look, Congress should have, could have, but they haven't. In some ways, I guess one could argue Congress is probably a little bit more focused on the fact that we're probably going to have a government shutdown, and focus on funding. And it's also curious that, unfortunately, the administration has decided to scale back this office at a time when Congress is also simultaneously not acting to reauthorize this very important piece of legislation that has allowed, given protections to private companies to tell the government, hey, something's going on here. We need to take action. So, I'm very concerned. I think that cyber information officers and companies are extremely concerned. So anyway, I will leave it at that. Hopefully, someone will take some leadership here in the remainder of this Congress.
Jessica, I'm just going to chime in right here and add on to what Martha just said. Yes, Martha, 100% believe that this is going to have a chilling effect on private industry, should it not be reauthorized at the end of the month. I'll note that this bill was actually passed in response to the OPM brief, Office of Personnel Management brief or breach. And so clearly there's a reason for it, right? A very justified reason. And of course, we're seeing this in the context of the Salt Typhoon announcement.
No immediate action like before.
Right.
So.
But Martha, I have to say, I am not optimistic that we are going to see this bill reauthorized by the end of the fiscal year.
I'm not either.
And I think Congress is really trying to prevent a government shutdown right before they have to start campaigning in November, a year out from midterms. So I think this is going to have a huge impact on companies where they are going to feel like they are opening themselves to liability. And unfortunately, I think we won't see it passed by the end of the year, but hopefully we'll be, or by the end of the fiscal year, I should clarify, but hopefully we'll see it. We'll see some movement on it shortly thereafter.
And Algene, so Morgan and Martha, focused here in the U.S. How do you see cell phone kind of in the larger Chinese, strategic vision? Like, what is this next phase that we might see when it comes to Chinese cyber espionage?
Well, when it comes to China's cyber espionage, it's all a part of what's called its 14th five-year plan. China's in the last quarter of this plan. It's basically China's national roadmap. It sort of guides Beijing's push to dominate cyberspace, AI, and digital infrastructure. And as this 14 five-year plan closes, of course, they're gearing up to end strong. So they're increasing their cyber attacks and their data thefts. And, this is why we're seeing this really strong and increased spike in sort of these zero-day exploits and new AI-enhanced phishing tricks, et cetera. I mean, yes, we've seen that Salt Typhoon occurred many years ago, and we're just picking up on it. But this is all part of the coordinated plan that's been going on for several years. And so right now, in this last quarter, we're going to really see additional attacks. And there's going to be a ramp up in order for China to sort of close this this five-year plan strong. And so it is really baffling to me that at this critical moment in cyber warfare that we're seeing these types of cuts. I mean, we also last month saw an announcement by Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, saying that they're going to basically shut down the intelligence community's Foreign Malign Influence Center. So this is the actual unit that's in charge of combating China's increased attacks on our cyber infrastructure. And so this is really important because that was basically the last line of defense for us. Right now, the administration already shut down related units to cyber at the State Department, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, the Department of Justice earlier this year. And so, again, this is all right as China is beginning to ramp up its last push in cyber hacking activities. And so it's kind of, to me, when you think about the cyber warfare landscape, it's sort of the equivalent of disarming your firearms of your army right as the enemy sort of makes a big push and brings more soldiers onto the battlefield. So I don't really see the logic in that. And I think it's really important to understand where China is and what we can expect from its grand strategic plan.
Okay, because it is a fun Friday, I do have a fun question. So all over the news, we had Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, a little Modi thrown in, meeting each other in China. We see videos of this, beautiful Chinese military parades. But there was a hot mic moment where Xi and Putin were talking about how folks usually don't make it past 70, but now that's like a child. Then they start talking about organ transplants and that humans may start living to 150, right? Like there's this weird undertone of like, oh, no, we're making it into the next century. So my first question is, Do folks think that these men, Xi and Putin, actually believe that? Like that they can make it to 150? And if you got to pick one of them that could make it to 150 between the two, who would it be? Morgan, you're first on my screen, so I'm going.
Oh my gosh. Jessica. Oh, what a question. That's a good one.
Right.
Did ChatGPT help you out with that?
No, that's just me wondering what I actually was sitting there like, do they think this? Do they believe it?
So for what it's worth, I think it's fascinating that it is like literally like
that's what they talk about.
Politicians, just whether they're autocrats or even here in the United States, cannot give up power. Like, I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican, a Democrat, or a communist. Apparently, you have a hard time leaving office, right? I think we need to do a little bit more of a deep dive on the psychology behind these people not wanting to give up authority, because that really seems to be sort of the crutch of the issue here. But if I had to pick one,
yes.
Ooh, if I had to pick one, okay, they're both around 70, right?
Yep.
They're both in their 70s. Let's see. Probably if I 1 to 150, probably Putin.
Ooh, okay.
Algene. I find him just much more of just find him more interesting.
I think the Ukrainians would disagree.
Yeah,
Algene, what do you think? What do you make of this?
Well, yeah, I think it's really fascinating. I personally would not want to live to 150.
I think most women are like, we're tired. What?
I mean, we work too hard. But I think if I had to choose one, it would be Putin, just because I would want to see him, shirtless on a horse at 150 and just see the comparison of the pictures. I think that would be interesting.
Vampires. Yeah. Martha?
Wait, so is the question which one would
you think they
likely
believe
last that long?
Yeah. No. Like, one, do you think they believe this? Like, they're gonna make it? And two, out of the two, if you got to pick which one got those organ transplants and was gonna make it to 150, which one would you let live?
Okay, first and foremost, I would like to point out that I've yet to know of any successful or attempt at a brain transplant, because the brain can deteriorate as many organs as you could replace.
Details.
Look, I'm sorry, I'm not like a biochem.
You don't need a medical degree to do this.
I'm sorry, but I mean, the brain will deteriorate. So I don't know, like that could be interesting to see in and of itself. But I think we've already seen some cognitive problems with each of them, especially with Putin. I'm not sure exactly what the wiring is going on in that brain that he has. It's obviously led to some irrational choices. I don't know, like, on the one hand, maybe it would have to be Putin, only because I think Russia is far weaker than China. And if you're going to have one of these leaders live that long, it would, I think in the long run, I think Putin could be somehow overcome.
Yeah, literally and figuratively, give him enough rope to hang himself.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy when you think about if they actually believe some part of this, how that changes their strategic planning, right, for their own countries. If they think they're not gonna, they don't have to worry about mortality.
Jess, you have to answer your own question.
No, that's why I get to host. I don't have to answer. I just get to pause it and sit and reflect. Okay, guys. Well, I guess we'll stay tuned. Let's see if we all make it, another couple more decades. That's a wrap. Thanks so much to Kelly Crowley, Keelan, Wolf, Claude Jennings, and the NSI staff for their help in producing today's episode. Join us on Monday, September 8th for another episode of Fault Lines, NSI's podcast that gets you smart fast on the national security and foreign policy debates shaking up America. We're on YouTube. Check us out there. And if you like what you heard or saw, be sure to rate, review, or subscribe.